beautiful weather, if a little chilly, for the 106th running of the Tour of Flanders. Tadej Pogačar on hand, Mathieu van der Poel, Kasper Asgreen amongst the favourites in a spectacular roster of riders that sadly did not include Wout van Aert. He COVID compromised like so many. Well, a long run of just over 100 kilometres before we got to our first section of pavé, and then of course the sequence of climbs that characterise this race, ending with the Ode Kwarmant, which has to be taken 3 times on the day, and the Paterberg announcing those last 13 kilometres. A long way before we got there. Well, a 9-rider breakaway we had. Runyard, Van der Hoorn, De Wolf, Boaro, Bowley, Canter, Mozato, Passions and De Wilde. It left a lot of the favourites, of course, in their wake, but the gap was a modest one at this point. Tadej Pogačar finding himself on the deck, I guess getting his bad luck out of the way early, he would hope. And our breakaway built up a margin of no more than 5 minutes. It was being held in abeyance. There were some chasers. Felix Gross decided to impose himself, likewise Affini, Vermont. There were a few others that thought about it. And then into the climbs. The Molenberg, riders getting eager out there. Van Hooijdonk and Koch deciding that they would try and engage the chase. Well, there were a few incarnations, some comings together as well, in a good way. The battle was raging on. Koch and Van Hooijdonk doing a good job, but the nerves were still there within the pack. Another crash, another day. And another bruise to carry home for Christophe Laporte. Thijs Benoot and he elevated to higher status in the absence of Wout van Aert. Well, the Luxembourg champion, Kevin Genietz, was also involved as the groups came together. And as they did, Tadej Pogačar had kept himself quiet. Mathieu Trentin had done a lot of work, suddenly went loud with 54 kilometres to go. On his wheel, Kasper Asgreen, and we were asking ourselves, where is Mathieu van der Poel of Alpecin Phoenix? Out of position and desperate to make amends, he powered into that gap. Well, any gaps that were opening up here could prove to be significant, and with a light breeze and the climbs taking a toll, then the gaps were indeed starting to open up and display themselves. So was the talent. On the Paterberg, Traknik accelerating. Over the top, Fred Wright, Dylan van Baarle, and so to the Koppenberg. Mean percentages and some fantastic racing as well. Well, Van der Poel was busy digging in. Valentin Madouas decided to join the fun as well. They were using the gullies, trying to smooth out some of the cobbles out there, but Pogačar constantly was the hammer blow. Everyone else the anvil, it seemed. Trying to stay in touch. Great work by Madouas and Van der Poel. It was a select group, and suddenly we were talking about just 3 up front. Well, this was going to beg a chase of sorts, but how effective would it be? At the head of the race with 24 kilometres to go, Tadej Pogačar was there in a very select group of 5. But for how much longer? He decided to turn on the power yet again. And that last little dual sequence, the Ode Kwarmant and the Paterberg, it was the 2 pre-race favourites, Tadej Pogačar and Mathieu van der Poel, who found themselves together. Well, it was a handsome gap they built up as well. A never say die attitude from the pursuers, though, meant that this tale was far from told. We thought at this moment it would be that Pogačar would finally break the link with Van der Poel, but Van der Poel doggedly dug in to stay with. Well, then we were wondering about how the finale would pass. We went underneath the Flamme Rouge, refusing to take a turn, Tadej Pogačar, and the others were starting to encroach. This was looking dangerous. Well, Dylan van Baarle was coming, so was Madouas, and as Van der Poel accelerated, locked in with nowhere to go, Tadej Pogačar from a winning position potentially, he was to finish off the podium. Van der Poel making it 2 wins out of the last 3. Remarkable. As indeed was the belief of Dylan van Baarle, who crossed the line in second place, and Madouas, who got a podium. Where was Pogačar? Wounded. He didn't want to talk to anyone. Van der Poel victorious. Absolutely spectacular. Madouas going for the barriers, disturbed, I guess, Pogacar. They all had their own race to win, potentially, and Van Baarle it was that locked out the other side of the road. One clear run for home, it had to be fought for, and Van der Poel got there. What a remarkable finale, and for all the complaints from Tadej Pogacar, he'll think that 4th place maybe on his debut in this race was not so bad after all. Could have been a win though. Stefan Kung rounding out the top 5, Dylan Teuns, Fred Wright, Mads Pedersen, Christophe Laporte and the veteran Alexander Kristoff. Spectacular it was, and a great winner. What a race this always turns out to be. It never disappoints.